Your patent sold for a high price. This morning, my boss suddenly called me and led me into the hallway, only to say something so ridiculous. Sorry, what do you mean by that? Are you talking about the patent I got at my previous company? I was puzzled by the absurdity of it all, yet I decided to listen half-heartedly. It had to be a lie. Yes, that's the one. But why did you join this company? Why did you leave your previous company and come here? Well, just then, a female employee, Lisa, came running up. Boss, there's a call from the CEO. He wants you to call back immediately. Really? Did he say what it was about? He didn't mention specifics. The CEO just kept insisting it was urgent. Hearing this, I suddenly had a gut feeling. Something must have been exposed, and it had turned into a major problem. You've lost everything now, I muttered. The sharp-eared boss glared at me and quietly approached. Hey, what's going on here? Boss, the CEO is waiting. The boss clicked his tongue in annoyance, then quickly smiled at Lisa, before giving me a sharp look. Remember this. With that, he brushed past me and hurried off. I'm Taylor Chris, 41 years old. Just an ordinary office worker. From elementary school to the start of middle school, I loved playing outside with friends, like any typical kid. But as I began thinking about high school, I suddenly developed a keen interest in math and science. Although it was tough at first, I persevered, studied hard, and eventually getting into my first choice high school. For college, I focused solely on the sciences, studying intensely without distraction and successfully passing the entrance exams. In the lab, I dedicated myself to research with like-minded peers. But purely intellectual and quiet activities weren't enough for me. I wanted to make the most of my time, so I also worked part-time whenever I could. Working in the kitchen and as a waiter at a beer pub, and as a cafe employee, being around lively people felt refreshing. It reminded me of my active childhood days. While I enjoyed interacting with people, I also felt that having come this far in a science program, I should use the skills I had developed through my research in my job. So, I pursued job opportunities accordingly and chose a sock manufacturing company from several offers. 7 years later, I obtained a patent while working in R&D. It was a modest achievement, not enough to make me rich, but it gave me a sense of accomplishment. However, it also brought a creeping sense of boredom. I realized that if I continued in this job, I would only become more bored and wither away. Despite realizing this, I stayed in the same job for 5 more years. But one day, I decided to switch careers and took a sales job, a completely different field. At first, it was confusing and filled with setbacks. But now, in my 7th year, though it can still be tough at times, I find it far from boring and believe it was a good career move. Last year, I was promoted to assistant manager, which brought new responsibilities and pride. One day, I was called by Tom, the department head, who asked about a certain matter. Tom had been with the company for 25 years, a veteran dedicated solely to this company. When I first joined, he was one of the sales managers, but 4 years ago, he was promoted to head of the sales department. But it's doubtful if he earned it through genuine competence. Did he get that position by insidiously knocking down his rivals? His condescending attitude and unbelievably selfish behavior for someone in a leadership role are prominent. When he asked about the matter scheduled for next month, I assumed he was referring to the contract and answered accordingly. Yes, we are scheduled to finalize the contract in the middle of next month. What? Next month? Not this month. We've been planning based on that timeline. Chris, shouldn't you have mentioned that right away? Are you slacking off? I almost retorted that I wasn't slacking off, but held back. I blinked repeatedly, reflecting on the boss's words. This isn't the first time we've discussed this. I had informed him beforehand that the contract would be finalized next month. I clearly remember communicating that. Is he forgetful, or is he just pretending to mess with me? The upcoming contract was initially going to be delayed until the month after next due to the client's circumstances and our own considerations. But we managed to settle on next month as a compromise. That should be appreciated, not criticized. When I informed him previously, he didn't openly complain but made indirect snide remarks. I felt that just like before, he was itching to call me incompetent. But boss, I believe I informed you earlier. The contract was initially set for the month after next due to the client's schedule, but we pushed to finalize it next month. I said this calmly, not to argue, but hoping he would understand the facts. However, he completely ignored my sentiments and only said what he wanted. That's not what I heard. You can't make up excuses like that. You're not a kid. Those excuses won't fly. He might not be capable of understanding others' feelings. Unable to find a response, I kept my head down in silence. Why are you looking down? You're trying to deceive me, aren't you? Being a liar's the beginning of becoming a thief. I held back the urge to call him the liar, pretending not to know. No, but we will definitely finalize the contract next month. I've heard that line before. The issue is whether we can do it this month. Don't change the subject, but fine. If it's next month, prepare another one for this month. Without saying another word, I turned away from the boss. I felt a creepy sensation, as if his persistent gaze was sticking to my back. In reality, I've already surpassed this month's quota, but of course, I couldn't say that. I would have to find other sales opportunities from now on. The boss once tried to reassign my client to another employee. Isn't this client assigned to the assistant manager? I turned around to see Lisa holding out a brochure, looking down at me. Lisa, a sales employee 10 years younger than me, has been with the company longer because she joined right after college. I took the brochure from her and checked the company name at the bottom right. It was indeed my client. Yes, that's right. Thank you. Why do you ask? I was just called by the boss, who asked if I could take over this client. It's a big deal, so I agreed on the spot. But then I saw you before sitting down and remembered. I'd already scheduled an appointment with this company for Thursday. It's possible the boss didn't know this, but it's a significant client, and it doesn't make sense for him to assign it to Lisa instead of me, the assistant manager. If it was to give her experience, I could understand, but from the company's perspective, it would be safer for me to handle it. Or maybe he knew I was handling this client and intended to have Lisa take over now. However, it's only natural to be suspicious at this point. If I told the client about the reassignment, I could visit with Lisa and hand over the responsibilities, but I was the one who secured this client through my sales efforts. This is an important deal and will undoubtedly be a significant achievement if completed successfully. Is he trying to sabotage my progress? Why would a boss do such a thing? I'll ask the boss about it. Sorry, please. I watched Lisa walking back to her desk. Then I sat and pondered for a while. But no matter what I thought, it seemed pointless against the boss, so I went to see him without any solid plan. Boss, I heard from Lisa that the client you assigned to her is actually the one I'm in charge of. I have an appointment with them on Thursday. I know that. You're too slow, so I thought Lisa could handle it. Internal competition is good, and maybe the client would prefer working with her. It's interesting, plus, Lisa will do the job well. He can say that because I've already established a good relationship with the client. If Lisa took over, she'd be working under the trust I've built, and things would go smoothly as long as she performs as usual. But that's due to my efforts. I don't want to boast. Each sales employee competes fairly, and Lisa understands that well. That's why she informed me immediately. We are rivals, but fair play is crucial. Well, if you insist on handling it, then go ahead. Please take care of it. With that, the boss leaned back arrogantly in his chair. I suppose I should be grateful that he let me handle it this time. But what annoys me the most is how the boss constantly meddles in significant, high-profile deals. Of course, the more you handle big deals, the more your reputation grows within the company, and the CEO takes notice. The boss takes advantage of this by involving himself in work meant for managers or assistant managers, implying to the CEO that things wouldn't run smoothly without him. He always makes it seem like he's playing a crucial role in important deals, trying to inflate his importance and ensure that the managers and assistant managers don't get too much recognition. For your information, there aren't many deals that a manager can't handle. If we genuinely needed the boss's help, we'd ask for it. His unsolicited interference seems driven by his desire to protect his position. He only involves himself in tasks we can handle without him, and even then, just the easy parts. He leaves the difficult work to us, taking credit for the successes. Everyone's aware of it and is thoroughly fed up with his underhanded tactics. Around noon the next day, the boss suddenly called my name. I stopped working and stood up to go to his desk, but he signaled for me to follow him outside. I followed him down the hallway, wondering where he was taking me. He finally stopped in front of a quiet window where no one else was around. With a smug smile, he suddenly said something ridiculous. "Your patent sold for a high price." "Sorry, what do you mean by that?" I was at a loss for words due to the suddenness of it. Still, I wanted to know the true meaning behind his statement. "Are you talking about the patent I got at my previous company?" I was puzzled by the absurdity of it all, but figured the boss was lying again, as he often did. The boss's habit of lying was well known within the company, as he frequently fabricated stories about work. It's only a matter of time before he gets into serious trouble. Moreover, he's not above harassment. I've been on the receiving end multiple times, especially since my promotion to assistant manager. Yes, that's the one. But why did you join this company? Why did you leave your previous company to come here? Well, you're not very useful here. Even your promotion to assistant manager was out of pity. Maybe you should go back to the company where you got the patent. But it's probably too late. If you're not going to use it, it's better to let someone else benefit from it. Of course, we'll split the profits. Give me your account details later. With that, the boss let out a creepy, twisted laugh. Just then, Lisa came running up. "Boss, there's a call from the CEO. He wants you to call back immediately." "Really? Did he say what it was about?" "He didn't mention specifics. The CEO just kept insisting it was urgent." Hearing this, I suddenly had a gut feeling. Something must have been exposed, and it had turned into a major problem. "You've lost everything now," I muttered. The sharp-eared boss glared at me and quietly approached. "Hey, what do you mean by that?" "Well, boss, the CEO is waiting." Annoyed, the boss clicked his tongue, quickly smiled at Lisa, then turned to me with a look of anger. "Remember this," he said, brushing past me and hurrying off. I stood there, lost in thought for a moment, but as I headed back to my desk, I saw the boss rushing out. Without glancing my way, he hurriedly got into the elevator, likely heading to the CEO's office. After a brief hesitation, I followed my instincts and chased after him, finding myself knocking on the CEO's office door. When I put my ear to the door, I could hear faint voices. I quietly opened the door to find the CEO and the boss facing each other. The boss looked pale, and the CEO had a stern expression. Suddenly, the CEO softened his expression and looked at me. "And you are, well. Sorry to interrupt. I'm Chris from the sales department." As I answered, I could feel the tense atmosphere in the room. "Oh, right, Chris. I've heard about your recent achievements. What brings you here?" Humbled by the praise, I took the opportunity to address the issue at hand. "Yes, actually." Even though I had made up my mind, I hesitated. When I glanced at the boss, he was staring at the carpet. "Actually, the boss just told me he sold my patent." "And what? That patent you own?" The CEO seemed unable to grasp the situation due to the outlandish nature of the claim. "Yes, that's right." When I answered and looked back at the boss, his face was one of utter shock. He might be panicking, thinking that after already angering the CEO, another problem had arisen. I tried to suppress my rising laughter and turned back to the CEO to continue, but the boss interrupted. "CEO, there's a misunderstanding. I did talk to him about the patent, but not in the way he described." The boss's face was now serious. "I meant to suggest that if he wasn't going to use the patent himself, selling it to others could contribute to society. He misunderstood my advice as an actual transaction." His smooth, seemingly noble explanation made me want to shout, "You've got to be kidding." "That's fine, Tom, but be careful with your words. Don't trouble your subordinates now. Back to our discussion," said the CEO, giving the boss a stern look. "Yes, sir," the boss replied, standing at attention with his hands pressed together. "We're not done here yet, Chris. If you don't mind, please step out for now." "Yes, sir." Though I wanted to push the issue, I knew it wouldn't be wise to upset the CEO. I left the CEO's office, frustrated by the boss's ability to fabricate stories so calmly. I should find another opportunity to talk to the CEO again. But is it true that the patent was sold? No, it must be a lie. It might be accessible online, but there's no way a patent can be sold to a third party without the patent holder's consent. And if that were done, it would be illegal. Wait, instead of assuming, I should first check if it's illegal. Thinking it wouldn't be wise to do this in the office, I took advantage of lunchtime to go to a cafe. I munched on a sandwich with one hand while using a tablet with the other. I searched the patent office website and read about patent transfers. As I thought, transferring a patent without the owner's consent is illegal. I also learned that personal identification documents are required for patent transfers. If the boss submitted my identification documents, it would mean he did it without my permission. Otherwise, he must have forged them. Either way, it's a serious crime. If this is true, I will sue Tom, regardless of his position. To confirm, I called the patent office. "Excuse me, I have a question. Is it possible to transfer a patent without the patent holder's consent?" "No, you can't transfer it without personal identification." "That's what I thought, thank you." I sighed in relief. Also, that's a crime. If you're facing such trouble, I recommend consulting a patent attorney or lawyer. Thanks for your concern. After hanging up, I felt optimistic. I didn't think the boss would go to the trouble of breaking the law. I sighed again as I returned to the office and looked around. None of the managers were less capable than the boss. In fact, some were even better. Everyone was proactive and didn't nitpick like the boss. The company ran smoothly thanks to the managers and lower-level employees, not the boss. The boss had always been the type to snatch projects away. I should probably tell the CEO about the boss's wrongdoings directly. I'll also make sure to mention the patent issue again. After a while, the boss returned from lunch. After taking a deep breath, I resolutely stood up and walked over to the boss. There weren't many people left in the office. Most were probably out on sales calls. "Boss, do you have a moment?" "Hey, what's up? Don't you have an appointment?" he asked mockingly. "I plan to spend the afternoon preparing materials and making sales calls from the office. Are you satisfied with your current position? Everyone else is out there making deals." His sudden comment might have stemmed from the incident in the CEO's office earlier. The fact that he didn't confront me directly suggested he was aware of the few remaining employees around us. I replied calmly, "No, I hope to be promoted to boss someday." He frowned immediately. "What? Why would you skip the manager position and aim directly for boss? Are you trying to insult me? Are you picking a fight?" The boss leaned back in his chair, glaring at me with an irritated expression, his bulging stomach protruding prominently. A button on his shirt was about to pop off. "No, it's a misunderstanding. I aim to become a manager and eventually a director, or even higher, as soon as possible. I will continue to compete fairly with my rivals without undercutting others or stealing profits. This contributes to the company's growth and boosts employee morale." The boss slowly straightened up from his chair and leaned on the table with his elbows. He gave a brief smile, looked away, then turned back to me. "What are you doing? Giving a self-promotion? Is this a presentation? Why are you telling me this? It's like..." The boss suddenly fell silent, then clicked his tongue in frustration. "You're really arrogant anyway. What did you want to talk about?" "Actually, my matter will take some time and isn't urgent. Since you're busy, I'll come back later. But I did get to say one thing." The boss frowned again as I quickly turned to leave. I spent the next while working on my documents, but needing a break, I went to the break room to make coffee. Lisa showed up as I was making my coffee. She had been in the office all afternoon, so she might have overheard my conversation with the boss. As she poured herself a cup of coffee, she asked, "What was that about with the boss earlier? I couldn't hear much from my desk, but it seemed like a confrontation." As expected, she had seen the scene. She's always straightforward, even with superiors, when she has a question. "It's nothing, Lisa. You don't need to worry about it," I said calmly, shaking my head. Really, it seemed pretty tense. She tilted her head, looking into my eyes as if trying to read me. "Well, okay. But it's definitely strange that the boss wanted to give your project to me. It's such a big deal, and it should be handled by someone higher up." When I agreed with her, she continued, "Exactly, normally, it should come through a manager or assistant manager before reaching me." Lisa was right. She understood how things should work. I nodded at her words and then put my index finger to my lips, signaling for silence. No one else was in the break room, but someone passing by might overhear. Lisa understood immediately and closed her mouth. After returning to my desk for a while, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Turning around, I saw the boss. "Chris, do you have a minute?" I nodded and followed the boss into the hallway. He turned at the first corner, stopping in a secluded spot. "What's up with you today?" "What's up with me today?" His face was a mix of anger and confusion. It made sense, since I usually didn't openly defy him. He must be unnerved by my sudden rebellious attitude. "Yeah, you've been acting strange today. You barged into the CEO's office and started saying all that stuff. It's a problem." He wasn't yelling, but seething with a simmering anger. "Yes, about that, I've been wondering. Is it true that you acquired my patent?" I asked, keeping my voice calm to hide my anger. "What if it is? What would you do?" His tone was challenging, but it had to be a lie. Suddenly, the boss grinned. "Of course it's a lie." So it was a lie. Yeah, it was a lie. But I did consider selling it seriously once. However, I found out from the patent office that personal identification documents are required. So I gave up. Why does he casually talk about criminal behavior? and to the potential victim, no less. I meant well. An unused patent is wasted. Letting it sit idle is a waste. Something only has value when it benefits someone. Right, you have to admit that. While I don't disagree, he's missing the concept of ownership. Don't make that scary face. Fine. We'll say I'm just mediating. If you have a problem with your share, I can increase it. I'm sorry, boss, but I don't understand what you're talking about regarding mediation and shares. As he spoke, I sensed where this was going. Look, I find the buyers, and we sell your patent. You understand that much. I get it, but my patent isn't for sale. Why does he ignore my position and try to push his agenda? Finding a buyer on your own is tough, right? Even if you do, they'll lowball you. I have the experience and connections to find a good buyer. He smirked, feeling clever. I'm not selling. What you're suggesting is like forcing someone to sell their assets against their will. He immediately waved his hands dramatically in front of his face in denial. That's completely different. You're an idiot. It's really frustrating. Think about it. This is no different from our regular sales activities. We're just mediating between the seller and the buyer. Even though the seller, me, said I'm not selling, he still confessed he was trying to sell it. What is he talking about? Let's assume for a moment that what you're saying is true, even if that's the case. Even if that's the case, he interrupted, eyes wide as if questioning where the problem was. I'm saying I won't sell it. Leave it alone. That's boring. You should see this as an opportunity to make connections with me. It could benefit you later. Maybe I should have said that from the start. The boss paused, giving a creepy smile. So here's the deal. If you agree to sell the patent, I'll favor you. I'll promote you. You could become a manager quickly. Wait, boss. No waiting. Decide now. It's a simple choice. Sell or don't sell. Side with me or against me. Which is it? There's no choice to make. I have no intention of selling my asset. And even if I did, I wouldn't involve him. And I certainly won't become his lackey. I'm not selling. You are my enemy? As soon as I said that, the boss's eyebrows shot up, and he glared at me. Fine, remember that. With a click of his tongue, he brushed past me quickly. I decided to confront the CEO on Monday morning, right after the weekend. Having declared him my enemy, I needed to act before the boss could retaliate. Timing my call perfectly, I got permission to see the CEO and hurried to his office. After knocking, I quietly opened the door and stepped inside. Good morning, CEO. This is Chris from the sales department. Good morning, Chris. What's this important matter? Is it urgent? Asked with curiosity, I responded firmly. Yes, it's about the head of the sales department. Oh, what about him? The CEO seemed very interested. I began by explaining how the boss frequently meddled in the managers' and assistant managers' projects to take credit for their work. The CEO listened attentively, with his hand on his chin. I pointed out how he likes to appear involved in all major projects and manipulates things to keep the managers from getting too much recognition. What do you think about that, Chris? I understand the boss wants to protect his position. But a boss should be managing and improving the performance of managers and assistant managers. His current approach is entirely wrong. This doesn't demonstrate his capability as a boss. Interesting. You have a knack for getting to the heart of the matter. The CEO smiled gracefully and urged me to continue. But that's not all, is it? This isn't just a problem affecting you. Coming all the way to my office means there's more you need to share about your situation, right? I remained silent. For example, you visited me on Friday. Can you tell me more about that? His gentle tone reassured me that I could trust him with everything. Thank you for your concern. I'm sorry for dropping by without calling on Friday. I gave a gentle face to him. The other day, the boss told me he sold my patent for a high price. I was caught off guard and didn't understand what was happening. But legally, a third party can't sell a patent without the owner's consent. And even if technically possible, it's illegal. It's a crime. I took a deep breath after saying all this in one go. I directly asked the boss about his intentions. Shockingly, he admitted he tried to sell it without my permission. If that's true, it's a serious issue. Yes, it may be hard to believe, but it's true. He then told me that since he couldn't sell it without my cooperation, I should let him find a buyer, give him a brokerage fee, and in return, he'd help me climb the corporate ladder quickly. The CEO's kind smile had vanished, replaced by a stern expression. And what did you say to that? I firmly refused him on the spot. Good. The room fell silent, and then the CEO spoke gravely. So, everything you've told me is true? Yes, I can no longer tolerate working under him. After declaring this, I left the CEO's office. As I rounded a corner in the hallway back to my department, I ran into the boss. He flinched and then glared at me, snarling. You're in my way, move. Why is he so aggressive when I've done nothing wrong? No, he's my enemy now. Where are you heading? The boss ignored my question as if he hadn't heard it. He must have been in a hurry because he walked away briskly without acknowledging me. Back at my desk, the phone rang. Assistant manager, the CEO, wants to see you. I nodded and hurried back to the CEO's office. As I entered, the atmosphere was cold and tense. Chris, I asked him about what you told me earlier. At first, he tried to cover it up, but he eventually admitted to everything, including the issue with your patent. It's not only unprofessional, but also unacceptable as a human being. The CEO cleared his throat. That's not all. While he was distracted with these schemes, he made several critical mistakes in his duties as a manager. His conduct is damaging to both his subordinates and the company's interests. The boss looked pale and aged, clearly shocked. CEO, I have an important meeting to attend. May I be excused? Of course, do your best. Thank you, I'll be going now. As I replied, I glanced at the boss, who was staring blankly at the carpet. Soon after, an immediate personnel change took place, and Tom was demoted from his position as department head. Instead of being demoted to a manager position, Tom was assigned to a newly created role, which was lower than both manager and assistant manager. He had no managerial responsibilities and no authority to command subordinates. It was a position in name only. His salary was likely reduced, and he became a window dresser. Given his long tenure, the company couldn't demote him to a regular employee, but this wasn't for Tom's benefit. It was due to the company's structure and consideration for the other employees. However, Tom soon couldn't bear it and reportedly submitted his resignation. Once the turmoil settled and Tom left the company, I could work more freely than before. Without the pressure of unnecessary harassment, my mind and body felt lighter, and my performance improved. Lisa, the sales employee, also thrived, handling a significant project recently with great success. The new department head who replaced Tom is a fair, kind, and capable person who treats everyone equally. Now, Tom, who is unemployed and living a reclusive life off his savings from his corporate days, is someone I will likely never see again.